So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, I highly suggest you use Anchor, and here's why. Now, first things first, it's free, and you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I'm talking dollar bills, y'all. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to the major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of others, so that's one less thing you got to worry about. And they got all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast in one spot, and you can do all that from your phone or your computer, so in my opinion, it's really the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, if that's what you're looking for and you're ready to jump on it, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What up, though? Welcome to Tamara to the Break of Dawn, the show where you'll literally ride my train of thought as I discuss the different types of challenges and struggles that we all can relate to. I'm your host, Tamara Dawn, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Now, you already know the struggle could be way too real sometimes, so my hope is that these shows will challenge and inspire you as I basically share the areas that I'm trying to grow in. So let's get it. And it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. I don't know why I wasn't blessed with vocals. Like, when I sing, I know I can't sing. I'm not out here talking about I got bars or sign me or nothing like that. I just like to sing. I don't understand why I wasn't blessed with vocals. So yeah. But we are at the end of season 1, y'all. The end of season 1. And it's super crazy because for one, I never really set out to, I didn't have this, I want to be a podcaster. It's just kind of something that happened because I had writer's block. I generally write, and I've said this before, I generally write, and there was a period where I couldn't write, and then this whole journey, and here we are. I never set out to do this. So then to be at the end of a season 1, and then having planning and all these things for my next season and whatever, and just building upon this foundation that I feel like was kind of set with this season, it feels like a huge accomplishment. And for me, I am very much a person that I celebrate milestones. There's long-term goals, and then I'll celebrate milestones along the way. And I think it's super important, especially with something like this, where I don't really have an end date in mind. Yes, this is the end of season 1, but even that is more just so for my own purposes of being organized, because there's not going to be any type of break as far as y'all are concerned. Season 2 is going to start next week. It's just every season has 20 episodes, and I need to be a very organized with stuff. So being at the end of season 1 is crazy for that. But then also, I have always struggled with consistency and seeing things through to the end when it's not something that I have to do. So deadlines and stuff for, work or whatever, I'm very deadline driven. But my own personal goals, usually I don't keep that consistency. So I'm actually really proud of myself. But like I said, season 2 starts next week, and there's some fun stuff that I'm adding that I really think y'all will enjoy. So I'm super excited about that. Keep rocking with me and you'll see what all that is. But I decided that I wanted to do a season 1 recap, just because this is my first season of podcasting, and so I wanted to kind of talk about what I've learned about podcasting, what I've learned about myself, and that's just what we're going to do. So let's get into it with this. I'm going to start with what I learned about podcasting, because I think it's important for me to share what I've learned. If there are newer podcasters or if there are people who were maybe thinking about starting a podcast, I've learned a lot from what other podcasters have shared, either via Twitter or their podcasts, or there are actually podcasts out there on how to start a podcast. And so that's been super helpful to me. So let's talk about the dope community that is within podcasting. That's something I did not even remotely think was going to be a thing. Like, I've got to interact with some of the dopest people who have been super supportive, super encouraging, and all that stuff. And that was like a little surprise that I did not even think was a thing, because generally in every creative project I've ever done with writing specifically, if you weren't directly involved with the project, then we didn't really, talk about it or encourage each other or whatever. It was the team of people, and that was it. So with that being the way things have gone for me, doing something and doing a show that I knew I was going to be doing, like a solo project, it's my own little thing. I didn't expect to have community or support or whatever that I've had. And also there have been, and I've said this before, creative projects, blogs, whatever, that I've written that were mine, not the stuff I've been a part of with other people, but that were mine, that like nobody would read, nobody shared on Facebook or whatever. And Twitter is the dopest place for networking. And I didn't even know that. I've had a Twitter for years before I started using it as much as I do now. And now it's honestly my favorite social media site, because I've found all the podcasters that I listen to on Twitter. I listened to mainly before, like, different, I don't know, creative people or even, sermons or whatever before. So I didn't really listen to the stuff that I listened, because I didn't know it was out there. And you just find somebody and they follow and they retweet and they share their stuff. And it's just like this beautiful thing of, it's a beautiful community. Like, retweeting seems little, and that's something I never really cared about prior to wanting to be heard and wanting people to hear what, listen to the show. But like on Facebook, and mind you, Facebook is mainly people I know, and you post something and it, like, no one reacts to it, no one whatever. And normally I don't care about that for just like me as a person. I just put it out there because that's whatever. But when I'm putting content out there that I want people to hear, I want someone to react, I want to know somebody's listening. And man, but Twitter, people retweet and then they check you out, and it's just, man, it's so just a dope, supportive community. Networking, that's something that is super important, because if people don't support you, I don't care how dope you are, how great your show is, how much time you spent on editing, promoting, or whatever, if you have no listeners, then it doesn't even matter. So networking is super important, and because your listeners are going to be other podcasters probably, but also it's going to be maybe their followers or whatever. And it's not like that sounds very self-serving. I'm not saying you're doing it to get access to their followers, but because that's grimy. And I hate when I see people, like celebrities, I'll see in their comments, people will be like, oh, listen to my album or whatever. I feel like that's just so grimy, but I guess you got to do what you got to do. But it's like you're skipping all the hard work that they went through to get to where they're at, and you're just kind of using them for who they know and who follows them. And I just feel like I hate when I see that. But what I'm talking about is for the people that genuinely support you, because support looks different. It could be listening, it could be, though, retweeting so that maybe someone else can listen to it that needs to hear it. And so I'll retweet people's stuff all the time. Even some of them, before I even had actually started listening to their stuff, I might retweet it just because they interact with you. That's the other piece. Like, I love when, what I love about this community is that the people who are creating the content of the shows that I'm listening to, they interact with you. And I'm not saying like, oh, we're besties, but they just, I feel like, understand the importance of networking and like, um, that you are an online personality ultimately. That's something else I learned. That's something that, small talk wasn't, I'll say, always my strong suit, like on social media. And I've had to grow in that because sometimes people just want to say what's up to the person. Like, I had a friend that reached out to me that I hadn't talked to in years, that really reached out once I started the podcast. And so it's kind of like I'm learning that there's a balance between your regular social media and then your, I guess, podcast social media. There are podcasters that I know that they have separate accounts, and for me personally, that's just too much for me to be, I don't know. So I just have one Twitter, one Instagram. I do have a Facebook page for the show, but for the most part, on like Twitter and Instagram, I say Twitter, it's me, but it's the show. But it's become with like Instagram, like it's a balance of me and the show too. And I just could not have another account just for the show for Instagram and just for the show because I was like already on these sites as me. So then to have to, that's just for me. But for some people, they have both, and I don't think either is wrong. I think it's a preference, but I just think the point of me saying that is, though, when you have a show and it's your personal account that you promote it from, you become an online personality, whether you want to or not. You don't really have to try to become one. You ultimately just become one, and that's a huge responsibility that goes along with that. So I feel like it's important to treat your supporters as, kindly, and I've grown in like small talk, because I really wasn't big on small talk, especially with strangers, especially with dudes, because as I've kind of talked about in some of the episodes in the show, I've had weird experiences when people DM me, and so it's made me be super guarded. But nowadays they would not know, because I'm still, hey, what's up, whatever. In my mind, I'm kind of like, okay, like, what are you on, based on my experiences, but I don't treat them that way, because I realize when you put yourself out there, this is the whole, you're an online personality, when you put yourself out there, and the reason I say online is just because that's where people mainly see you. I mean, like, it's, for me, it's not like I'm an actor, and then that'd be a whole different thing. So, like, you become this online personality, and so it's kind of like that's a huge responsibility, and people want to interact with you. And so that's what I've learned about podcasting, because I'm putting myself out there. I never really put myself out there before, and so it is what it is. What I've also learned is that, so on like some of my shows is just me venting, so then I just talk. And then some of my shows, though, like with the requested topics or even this, there's certain points I want to hit. So then it's important for me to have, like I have right now, a piece of paper with just bullet points. So I make sure I get everything out. Now I'm still talking off the dome from every bullet point, but organization is important within a show, because for some people that might deter them, from listening or whatever. And then episode notes. the description, the details of what your episode is about. If you look at older episodes of mine, you will see where the description was so brief, because I just kind of felt like they'll figure it out when they listen. And that was cool for the people who knew me, who wanted to support what I was doing, like my friends who they rock with me regardless. But for like people who don't know you, and then once you get into trying to promote and trying to like almost advertise or sell yourself in a sense, you gotta have details, because a person who doesn't know you is gonna click to be like, why should I even listen to this? And so I've had to grow in that, and now I include access to my social media sites via that, Linktree link or whatever. The Linktree link, that's something I saw that another podcaster had on their site. When I started following them, I clicked on it. I'm like, oh, that's smart, because then all of your platforms that you're on is all in one spot, because it's like people don't, just trying to make it as easy as possible, because people don't necessarily want to have to go all over the place to try to, do what you're doing, and then have your social media on there, because, people want to follow you on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So there's that. Then, huge important thing, stay in our lanes. It is important for all of us. What I had to learn is to stay in my lane. Now, when I say that, I can honestly say there has never been a point of me starting this podcast that I ever felt like I wanted to really talk about anything other than the topics and basically the heart behind the show. Toxic relationships, healthy boundaries, everything that I talk about is super important to me and I'm extremely passionate about. So though I say it in like story form and share my life, this is just who I am outside of this. And so there's never been a point that I ever wanted to switch up like what I do or whatever, but I will say it is easy to like, there's a lot of shows that I listen to that I love that they talk about, current events, or they talk about other stuff. And if you're not someone who's sure what you want to do, it could be easy to be swayed and be here, there, and everywhere. But ultimately, what I love about podcasts is, and I listen to them especially when I'm at work. Like I've said before, I'm a social worker, so there's the balance of meeting with people, but also doing reports. Put my headphones in and I'll listen, and it's great because it's like, it feels like I'm watching TV sometimes, but I'm not. I'm listening to a show. And what I love about it is I feel like I get to really see people's personalities, and then they interact with you on social media, which is cool because some celebrities do and some celebrities don't, and there's nothing wrong with, everybody has their whatever, but that's what I like about the community of podcasters that I follow on social media, because they interact with you, and I just think that's kind of cool. But you got to stay in your lane though, because when you become this like online personality, which we'll go more into that later, but you got to stay in your lane. No, we'll go there now. So ultimately, what I've learned, and I didn't expect, is that there is such a balance between just being you, but then also the fact that you're actually an online personality once you put yourself out there and you create content. And I follow a lot of, prior to starting the podcast, I followed a lot of like content creators on Instagram that would talk about just different stuff. And you are like an online personality when you're putting something out there that people are watching and people are whatever, especially in this day and age when social media makes it so easy for you to be found by people in different states and countries or whatever. It's like, it is a huge responsibility. And so some people have separate Instagram accounts, separate Twitter accounts, and all that stuff. I actually use my personal Twitter, personal Instagram. I do have a Facebook page that's specifically for the show, but I have it like that because for me, it would just be too much to be having all these social medias because I was on social media before all this. So it would just be too much to have all these accounts that I gotta log into and whatever. And so for me personally, I have my personal Twitter now. I didn't use it as much as I use it now, but it's still the Twitter I've always had, the Instagram I've always had, and whatever. And so as a result of that, my account makes me like this online personality, and I've had to grow in small talk. But hold on, let me pause. The stay in your lane piece, because that all goes with this. If you are just swayed by trends, chasing clout, and this, that, and the other, you are going to always have to switch up. You're going to always have to change up. You're going to always have to do whatever if that's what you're chasing in podcasting or really in anything with being a social media influencer. You're going to have to, and it's good to evolve, don't get me wrong. But what I have found is that I would much like when I first started, and you look at the analytics because you want to see that people are listening, and so I noticed that the first episode had a bunch of listens in comparison to the second and third. Like it was cut by it was like 1/3 as many listeners stayed. And I think initially people who knew me, oh, let me see what she's going to be talking about. But maybe it wasn't for them, or I don't know. But then also, trends are hard to follow sometimes because some people get behind and then binge later and all these things. But there was a steady stream of, less people than the first episode, right? And so with that, what I have always said is I want the people to listen who really want to rock with what I'm doing, who really feel like what I'm talking about is something that they need or whatever. Those are the people that you want. Yeah, somebody may check you out and whoop-de-woo, but you really want the people who are just, they really want to listen to what you're talking about or whatever. And that's where you got to just stay in your lane, because the people, there are podcasts about TV shows, about sports, about whatever, and everybody is excited about that because that's what they want. But if that's not what they want, and then the person is like, oh, well, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, I feel like you just kind of get lost or whatever. So I just think it's super important to stay in your lane. Going back to the online personality piece, I've had to grow in small talk. Really isn't my thing with strangers, especially dudes. But what I've realized is that now that I've put myself out there for people to hear what I'm talking about and this, that, and the other, people want to interact with you. And so I've really had to grow. It's gotten easier. In the beginning, it was kind of weird. And mainly it's because, and I've kind of talked about this on a few episodes, my experiences with random men DMing me has always been just very toxic. And as a result of that, it's made me super guarded and made me whatever. However, none of the people that or comment or whatever now, none of them would know that because I'm friendly and I'm whatever, because it's kind of like I've put myself out there, so people are gonna want to interact with you. Or I've had people before I started the show, when I started posting Instagram stories and, hashtagging the Explorer page or whatever, I've had people respond to it and ask me what I was talking about, and I would answer, and we have a little bit of dialogue, and then we move on, and I may never talk to that person again, and that's fine. But if I had basically interacted with them based on the experiences I had before and not realized that it is a huge responsibility and an honor to be in a position where anybody really wants to care about anything that I have to say, when I'm a creative. I'm someone who has to have a creative outlet. So it's a huge honor that anybody would want to listen. So then why not say what's up? Why not respond to their comment or whatever? Because that's what people, they want to be able to interact with people. I know when there are celebrities that actually, man, one time Jagged Edge liked a comment that I tagged them in, screenshot it, told my homegirl. I remember Joseph Sikora. I always want to call him Tommy because he's Tommy on Power. But I remember I watched him in The Intruder, and then I tweeted at him because first of all, I was shocked that he was in it. But I guess really I knew that from the average, whatever. Anyways, but how things kind of went with his character, I was surprised about. And so I tweeted at him, and he replied. And I remember I screenshot it, and I text my little brother because we both watch Power. And so that type of stuff is cool. Am I trying to be his best friend or whatever? No, but it's just like, wow, you as a celebrity, I guess, understand the importance of the fans, of the supporters. I like that word better because ultimately that's what we're doing, is we're supporting their job, because that's what they just have, a super dope job that makes a lot of money, while the rest of us do whatever. But yeah, so when you're an online personality, that's a super important responsibility. I didn't really think that would be a thing, but you just roll with what you learn and don't be distracted by what everybody else is doing. Man, hosting a podcast, especially a solo show, so that is just me, I don't have a co-host to share the workload with, is a lot of work. Recording is easy because for me, because the premise of the show is you're writing my train of thought, there's not really a ton of editing that has to go in it. I have the pre-recorded intro that I just add on to everything. I have the actual episodes that I record, and then I have the pre-recorded outro that I just tag in, and then the little outro music that plays at the end. Those things are already done, so the only thing I actually have to record is the actual episode. And because, like I said, it's y'all riding my train of thought, it just goes where it goes, and so there's not a ton of editing. So that the recording, getting the shows together, that part is easy. Now, the part that is a lot of work that I did not think about, and I've just had to be organized with how I do it, is promoting it. Because you gotta keep yourself in somebody's mind or whatever. Like, once people subscribe to you, they're kind of gonna be looking for you. And that's what somebody told me when I was starting. I just, talked to a lot of different people. And one of the things my friend told me, she said, make sure you stick to a day. Like, pick whatever day you're going to have them air, because then people know when to expect you. So I chose Thursday, every Thursday, faithfully, the day after Christmas, the day after New Year's. It doesn't matter. Every Thursday, my show airs no matter what. Now, I record ahead of time, so that makes it a little bit easier to schedule. But still, that's the advice somebody gave me, is like, stick to this is your day, because then people will put you a part of their week or their day or whatever, however. So that's a lot of work, though, with promoting, because you can't promote once a week. You can't even necessarily promote once a day. You kind of got, like, I promote multiple times in the day, and that's what I don't feel like I'm over tweeting, though. That's the beautiful thing, because Twitter moves so fast that the way I look at it is there are different people on Twitter in the morning, that might be in the afternoon, that might be in the evening. So I kind of, for sure, at least tweet a few times a day. But all that is a lot of work, because then it's like captions and, well, what picture, I use a lot of memes with my, because of what I talk about, memes usually speak to me. So I use a lot of memes to promote my show, or creating the promotional videos. It is a lot of work. So I listened to a podcast that was saying you have to be willing to invest time, money, and I can't remember what the third one was. And for me, money was just like I bought a mic before I started because it's, but it's not like this super expensive mic. It was like 30 something bucks I got on Amazon, but it works, you know what I mean? But you got to be willing to invest that time, that energy, that effort to edit and put all that stuff, and that's a lot. But let me flip to the other page of my notes. What have I learned about myself in all this? Because ultimately the point of all of this show is about growth. So I hope I didn't lose y'all while I was talking about what I learned about how to podcast or whatever, because I know some of y'all could care less about podcasting. So hopefully you still with me, and now we could get to the stuff that you probably maybe want to hear more about. What have I learned about myself? One thing that I did not know about myself is that I love to talk, and I love to be heard. And that's why I love podcasting, because I get to talk without being interrupted. And what I realized is I didn't really have that like I needed it before. I kind of need to be heard, and I didn't know. Oops, sorry, I'm having some struggling. But anyways, I didn't realize I needed to be heard, and I like to talk as much as I do. So that's what I've learned about myself. It's also important for me and us and you and whatever, no matter what you're doing, it's important for you to believe in yourself, because if you believe in yourself and you sound confident, and that's where the promoting kind of was awkward at first, because I've never been one that wants to feel like I want to sell myself to anyone on anything. I feel like if you don't want to do it, then you don't want to do it, but that can't be the case. You got to draw people in, and in order to do that authentically, you got to believe in yourself. So whatever it is you're out there doing, it may not be something creative. It may be you're trying to go for a promotion. It may be trying to start a business. It may be you're trying to start a relationship. Believe in yourself. Believe that you have something to offer. I've said this before, but I always come back to it because I have to look at this card every time I come in the studio, because it reminds me that I have something to offer. And the card said, "The world needs more people like you in it." A really good friend of mine gave it to me. And understand and remember that you need to believe in yourself, because there is a void that only you can fill. There is something needed on this earth that only you can do. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I'm pretty sure, because it's so easy for us to beat ourselves up. It's so easy for us with social media to get caught up in the comparison trap. And maybe because we don't have as many followers, or we don't have as much this, that, or the money, or the vacations, or whatever it is you see on social media, that could easily have you feeling like less than, or like what you got going on isn't enough. I'm here to remind you that there is a void that only you can fill. There's somebody else looking at your life that is wishing they had whatever it is you have. So I think it's important for you to remember that you are valuable to society, and, just keep being you, and the right people will eventually come to you. If maybe you don't have a good circle right now, eventually in the right time, God will put the right people in your life. And it's funny because some people might get turned off by me saying it like that, but like I've said, faith is a huge part of who I am. And so if you don't want to say God, the universe, or however you interpret that, it's still the same principle, is that, eventually what's supposed to be will be. It might not be what you thought or what you hoped for or whatever, but I just think sometimes we gotta play the cards we're dealt and make the most of it, and just have a really grateful attitude, because perspective is everything sometimes. So that's one thing I've learned in myself. I've learned that I can be consistent. I used to think that consistency was not something that I could do, but I have had to be consistent, and I can be. I have to be intentional. I have to be disciplined. I have to, write things down, put things in my calendar or whatever. But I feel like this podcast I listened to said that you have to keep at it and just keep doing and don't keep switching up or whatever. Be consistent in that one thing, and that is how you have success. And it's easy to get, and success is going to look different for for everybody. Success for me is just one, the creative process. I love the talking and creating the episode, and I love when I'm done and then I, put the notes in, and then I love when I come up with the captions or whatever, and the whole process, I love it. So for me, that success is that I have an actual creative outlet that is consistent and I'm still doing, but then also success looks like people actually listening to it, because no creator who is creating content wants to put stuff out there that nobody reacts to, listens to, watches, whatever it is you're doing. So success for me is that too, but I have to be consistent. If I stop, then, eventually people will move on with life. And yeah, they may re-listen to some episodes, but it'll be over. So I gotta keep going if this is the goal, is for y'all to hear what I'm talking about. What I also have learned about myself is how much I actually do really love people. I feel like because I've had so many toxic interactions, toxic friendships, toxic situationships, and all these things, they kind of had me really jaded for a while. But at one point, same good friend that gave me this card once told me to keep my heart open. We were talking about grief or whatever, but keep my heart open. And when he said that, I was at a point where, and I even said, like, I've become very jaded about friendships and people and whatever, just because of what I've been through. But what I've learned throughout this whole process, like I said, this dope community, and that's why I say eventually you'll have the people around you that you're supposed to have around you. Sometimes the journey to get there is super painful, but then sometimes you gotta heal in the process and shed away the things that are gonna hinder you from getting to where, or they're gonna hinder you at the next level or whatever. And then sometimes you gotta get away from people. So it's this balance of everything. But the thing about it is, now I'm like, man, I actually really love people. And it's not that I didn't like people, even though sometimes I don't like people because of what they do. So I'm not this, oh, we are the world perfect person. People get on my nerves every day. But what I'm saying is, in general, who I am as a person, I really love people. And I've learned that throughout this process. I love to learn. That's the other piece that I have kind of learned about myself, because I will listen to podcasts that are teaching you about podcasting. I don't claim to be the expert, even with all that I shared. All that I shared. I don't claim to be the expert in relationships. I have issues within my relationships, and really we all will, because we're all human. But I love to learn, and I love to share what I've learned. But I really like to learn, and like, I like to listen to the podcasts, like especially the ones that I listen to that are like a group of men, simply because men have a different perspective than we do, and so I can learn, just more about men in general, men in general, their thoughts, whatever. So I love to learn. I love other people's perspectives. That's what I've also learned. So like, I like listening to shows that maybe I didn't necessarily even think about that topic or that subject or that whatever, but it's like, oh, that's how you feel about it, and you're very passionate, and you might have, you citing your source or whatever, or you have, receipt. I don't want to say receipts. That's so funny, but that's really what it is. But you have research to back up what you're talking about. which basically is receipts, but I wasn't planning on saying it like that. But anyways, and so hearing other people's sorry, hold on, let me pause because my eyes are starting to itch and all these things. Okay, other people's perspectives, it's just super dope. And so that's what I've learned about myself. And then we'll go back to the other piece, and I'll even repeat this other. Hold on, now my eyes are watering, bruh. Be going through the most. It's like this time of year is just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I have just like all year allergies because I don't feel like I really get a break from allergies. Let me try to hurry up and finish. I have learned that I am needed. What I have, there's a void that I am filling out here. And that just because somebody else is doing what I'm doing, like there are The Grip, a ton of other podcasters that I follow on Twitter. And just because there are other podcasters, for one, I shouldn't, which this isn't how I am, period. But all that hating you see people doing, like I just think about, let's move away from podcasting for a second, because I don't see that with this. This is like the most encouraging community of like us all doing the same thing that I have ever. It's beautiful. But you think of like people selling hair or something, and it's like just because 5 of y'all, 10 of y'all, whatever, are selling hair doesn't mean the 11th person shouldn't start selling hair. Like I think that you're gonna reach different customers that maybe they can, or maybe some people just vibe with personalities. Like my nail tech and my braider, they are super dope, but really why I stick with them, and even my old nail tech, definitely got to show her love, because I only had to switch from her because she moved away. But I love my new nail tech too, so but I stick with them because of their personalities and just the vibe, and it's not messy and drama. And same with my hair, my braider or whatever. I stick with them because of who they are, more so than because of what they do. Because when you go into situations like that and you're around somebody for an hour or 45 minutes, like with the nails, both me and my oldest daughter get our nails done, so we're there for a while. My hair, I get my hair done by this person, and so do my daughters. So a lot of times when they get their hair done, I'll just sit there and talk to her or whatever. And it's like, you can't be around somebody for hours and you don't even really like them as a person. I don't care how dope of a braider or nail tech or whatever your product is. And so it's super important that no matter if, and there are other braiders that are dope and other nail techs that are whatever, but you are needed, because the people that are wanting to, your vibe and what you have to offer, are going to want to rock with you. And it doesn't mean, now it's a little bit different in that context, because I'm not going to have anybody else do my hair, and I'm not going to have anybody else do my nails. However, I may refer you to someone else if my person isn't taking new clients, because sometimes, especially with my braider, she'll put, hey, these are the other people, and she could be a hater. She could be like, man, I ain't telling you nothing, and I ain't taking new clients, and it's whatever. But I will see her list, hey, these are other people that you could go to if whatever, because it's, man, it's room for all of us out here. The world is too big, and especially with podcasting, though, just because somebody listens to me doesn't mean they're not going to listen to you, and vice versa. And so that's what I love about this community. And I feel like the what is it called? The social media influencers is kind of the same. Like, just because I like Like I watch Just Hilarious, but then I also watch Kev on Stage, but then I'm trying to think of the people. B Simone, I Am Pretty V, I think is the other one. The people that I could think of off the top of my head. Those are all different videos, different whatever, but I watch them all. You know what I mean? And then on Twitter, I follow this dude. I Am Zoe. I know that ain't his real name, but that's who he is on Instagram. Dude is funny. I watch his videos. Then him and this other dude, I don't probably say his name wrong. Tahir Moore. I don't know if that's how you really say it. They do something similar though, where they comment. They do like commentary on videos that are already out there. So they're doing kind of like the same thing, but I watch both of them and they're both hilarious. So I say all that to say there's room for all of us and you are needed out here. And that's what I've learned, that I don't need to be intimidated because there are other I never really was. I didn't even, to be honest, know that there were as many podcasts as they are out there. But this card, I have this here for a reason, because sometimes I will admit it is a little overwhelming, like, dang, there's so many people out there. Maybe people might not. But then it's kind of like, but then you don't want the people who don't want to go with what you have to offer. You want the people that are like excited and can't wait for a new episode. Like, that's the kind of people that you want rocking with, whatever you're doing. You might make shirts, you might, I don't know, you might make blankets, you might clean houses, cut grass, whatever it is you do, you want the people that are excited for what you have to offer. So that's what I've learned about myself, and those are my encouragements to you for yourself. That's what I've learned though this first season of podcasting. Like I said, yes, this is the end of season 1, but it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a break. Season 2 will begin next week, same time. Well, same time that they upload. Whenever y'all listen. But I appreciate y'all, like, man, especially those of you who have really stuck with me from the beginning. And this is no shade to newcomers or whatever, so I don't say it like that. But, like, the people who have been here from the beginning are actually people that I, like, know in real life and are my friends or whatever. And it's just, I always say to them, it's so wild that people really want to people that know, like, my little brother listens to me, and my little brother, like, knows about some of the stuff that I'm talking about, like, because it's my little brother. And so, like, that's just encouraging to me that people that already know me want to hear what I have to say. So those people that have been there with me from the beginning, I gotta, like, man, I appreciate y'all, like, for real. And I always tell y'all when y'all comment on stuff anyways. The newcomers, man, thank you for tuning in. This might be your first time hearing me. Go back through the season, check me out, see if this is really what you want, and then if it is, I appreciate you wanting to be a part of what I'm putting out here. And then, like I said last week, and I gotta start saying this more, I might have to just record something that says this. Man, write a review. Man, reply to my tweets. Reply to my tweets. Comment on my Instagram stuff. Like, I want to interact with y'all. I want to hear how y'all feel about what I said or whatever. If there are topics that you might want to hear my perspective on, let me know. I do have the requested episodes that I'm doing. Now, I am going to say a disclaimer. I can't promise that I'm going to talk about every topic, because it's just me, and if I don't have there's no one else to say, oh, well, maybe they could take the lead on this or whatever. So I can't promise that I'm going to talk about every topic that people suggest, but I do want to put that out there. But I pretty much do reply to everybody, even people who comment on YouTube. I reply because it's like, I love hearing, like, I like people and I like talking to people, so it's kind of weird to have these type of conversations by myself. So that's my way of it being more of a dialogue than just I talk, you listen, I talk, you listen. Like, so yeah, that's what I got for y'all at the end of season 1. Man, I feel really accomplished. But I'll be back next week. So, as I always say, I appreciate y'all. For real, for real, for real. And until next time. So first things first, shout out to Sniper T for this beat. And all his information can be found in the episode notes. Now, like I say on social media, I want y'all to interact with me. So here's a few ways you can do that, and the links and whatnot to all these methods are in the episode notes as well. Now, you can leave me a voicemail. Call 720-457-4022. You can email me. Hey, y'all can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and I'll follow you back. And then you can go ahead and slide in the DMs, just not on no weird stuff. You can also like the Facebook page, and the link on there goes to my email as well. Now, what I need y'all to do is pay attention on my socials for when I ask for feedback for the Thoughts to Ponder episodes that air every other Monday, because the reality is that y'all feedback is what makes those episodes dope. So, leave me a voicemail, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or email me. Just holla at your girl.